Episode 12, Tome-Wan, written by Chris Brancato, Brian Fuller, and Scott Nemethro, directed by Michael Reimer. Welcome to Fate and Circumstance, a Hannibal fan podcast. I am your host, Felix, and these are my co-hosts.
Hello, I am Melisa, and we're in the first quarter of a new century. Sick.
Oh my god, really? Whoa. Hello, I'm Shaira Bambi, and I didn't realise that we're in the first quarter of a new century.
Well, we're exiting it, really. This is the last
Okay.
year of it.
Don't
Technically
tell
speaking,
me
well.
that. That's scary.
And we'll never see the end.
Ah!
I have no sense of time.
Yeah, I have no other time. So scary to know that that time exists. Why does time exist?
A good question.
Very, very deep.
One I cannot answer.
Yes.
So, we'll start off with our shout-outs this week.
Whoop, whoop.
Our first shout-out is Kenshi, or Kenshi-wan, over on Twitter, who does beautiful sort of manga-style artwork that is very typically quite bloody or gory in nature.
Nice.
Love the texturally look in it, and oh my god, it's really cool. It really pops.
It's very pretty. The colours are beautiful. The gore is beautiful. I love all of the little fine details, like eyebrows and eyelashes are really gorgeous.
Oh
and the lighting and just the compositions as well. It's so really cool.
Yeah, they do like quite a bit of sketchy work, but also these just ridiculously high quality, full blown illustrations, which are amazing.
Really nice. Yeah.
That's super, super cool. And then our second shout out this week is Boo, who is quite well known amongst Fannibals for their post-it note drawings. I don't know how many that Boo has created, but it must be immense at this point.
Yeah, it's super cool. I love the ones that they're holding it up during like different things, concerts and stuff. That's super cool.
They're super sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend going and looking at their social media just to see, especially when they've been on holiday and have gone different places, because they'll draw Hannibal and Will in different situations that match where they are. There was one where they were like on a boat, so they drew Will fishing off the boat. They're so sweet.
That's so cool.
Hell yeah. They also do some really gorgeous pencil sketches, which I highly recommend checking out. They're one of... This isn't always the case, but amongst Fannibals, you quite often find that people have a bias towards either Hugh or Maz. And Boo is definitely one of the Hugh people, so they do a lot of beautiful Hugh sketches.
No, heck yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess you do have a bias between the two.
But what's my bias?
I mean, everyone has a bias.
No idea.
Hannibal, clearly, right now. Well, you're used to be you Will, now it's Hannibal.
That's it, though. I didn't say Will or Hannibal. I said Hugh or Maz.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
I don't have a bias, which is, I think, less common.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't see many people. Character-wise, yes, I have drifted into the Hannibal apologist zone.
Drifted.
I still love Will very, very much.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, no, you did say Hugh and Mads and Hugh. I definitely have a bias towards Mads.
Yes, you definitely do.
I love Mads.
Who's your bias, Melissa?
Have a guess.
It has to be one of those and not a woman.
Well, if I'm thinking it's Hugh Dancy.
See, I genuinely wouldn't have known which it was.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a feeling because when in my former life, when I very much went for that kind of type, kind of aesthetically.
Well, Hugh Dancy is notoriously loved by lesbians.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know why, but this is a thing. Hugh Dancy is basically like an honorary lesbian at this point.
Safe man, pretty boy, safe man. A lot of sapphic women like myself have a little like, I'm not quite gay. I'm a little bit, peeking over. I have a little. I've always said I have a bit of a 10%. I have a 10% that's just not women that I'm like, you know what? I would. I find you sexy, and that's just life. You one of them people.
Valid.
Also remember that at university, Hugh Dancy was voted both prettiest boy and prettiest girl. So
Oh wow, amazing!
Beautiful.
10 out of 10.
it makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, yeah. If we're gonna add other characters, it would have to be Beverly for me. That's my bias.
It gets too complex for me when you add in other characters. Then I have to love everyone equally. So, first question of the day: what did you think of the episode?
I loved it. It was a slower episode, but it was, I don't know, how do I describe it? More philosophical, maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a good word for it.
I see that though.
Might work. It works. I think it works a little bit, kind of, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting one. I think it was a little bit satisfying in the sense of understanding a little bit more what each side is conspiracizing towards. Am I making sense? Am I saying yeah? Yeah, I think we kind of got a little bit more insight into like kind of Jack and Will's plan a little bit, which I think is what we were sort of yearning for in a way, because we were so like, you know, as a viewer, you're sort of like, what's happening, what ways we're going, what's going on. And obviously, innately, I would like to hope that everyone kind of wants the goodness to prevail, as I always have said for myself anyway. So seeing that, I feel like was a little bit of like a nice satisfaction in a way to kind of get that information, even though it was just a little bit, and you could definitely tell there's still so many more layers behind everything, especially Hannibal's side of things, because even if we did get everything on the down low, that's going to fucking change in the blink of an eye. Like, we can't ever trust this man, and why would he give away why would he give away any of his plans for anyone? Like the truth to it all. So I think yeah, it was nice to have that little tidbit, even though there's more to it. We were fed, but we're still hungry.
Valid.
Yeah, it's a very good episode. A lot happens that kind of touches a lot of different areas, because there are like subtle calm moments. We do get a nice revisit with Jack we haven't had for ages, and then there's just literal horror as well.
Yes. I love the horror moments. The horror moments are cool. I shouldn't say they're cool, but they. You know, I love.
Cool. It's okay to like horror.
I love my gore. Okay.
Yeah, no, damn right. I was a big horror fan. You know, I think
also,
cool.
also Mason got his due. Also, Mason got his dues, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah. So, this episode is called Tome-Wan, which is the final dish in kaiseki before the dessert. Tome literally means to stop, so it's coming towards the end of it. It's usually miso soup, sometimes vegetable soup, served with rice, so it's just very simple.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Sounds good. Me, anything to do with food. Sounds great.
Yeah, fair, valid.
Yummy, not me.
So our first talking point this week is Bedelia du Maurier returned to this episode.
Smash, but also no, you escaped. God damn it, Jack. You're gonna get her killed.
But we finally got confirmation that Hannibal did have influence over Bedelia, and that under that influence she killed one of her patients, Hannibal's former patient. So how did it feel to see Bedelia again and to have that finally confirmed?
Yay! I mean, it's quite easy to figure out that's something that is as given. Hannibal's manipulative, clearly. The way her patient died was something to do with her, and she killed. Yeah. But yeah, I'm both happy and sad to see Bedelia. One, because I love Bedelia, because again, smash. Not just that, but also because she's such a cool character as well, and I just like every scene that she's in, I really like. But also, come on, I wanted you to survive. I would have been happier not to see you again, because now there's a potential that you will die, and that would make me very sad.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, actually.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting take. Very bittersweet to see her. Obviously, again, fucking eye candy. Second of all, I think I feel like for myself, definitely knew there was something that Hannibal knew that kind of was to do with Bedelia, had something over her. It's clearly now that we know that she killed the patient. I don't know if it was necessarily, I was thinking maybe like she definitely like full on just murdered him. I feel like I just felt like there was some sort of, like she had something to do with it, so to speak. I think I was thinking more of the lines of like maybe she'd seen him do it or helped him or something like that. But it's weird though, because she says she was assuming it was like for self-defense, and then does she say something about like maybe not or something like that, or someone suggests that it might have not been self-defense? Something along those lines.
It's something along the lines of it was self-defense to an extent, but beyond that, it was murder.
Yeah, yes. So that leaves us a little bit like blue-balled, because what the fuck do you mean? Because because obviously where it's Bedelia, you want to believe that it's, you know, it was self-defense, but then if she was sure that it was self-defense, would she be so scared to be found by the FBI? Would she be so scared about being arrested and stuff like that? And it's like even then she's still wary about it. I don't know if that's just like the hold on Hannibal. Like she sat in the interrogation room and she's like looking around. She's still very, very slow with the things that she says, almost like she's like thinking about each word before she says it, because she doesn't want anything to get back to Hannibal. And but also maybe I think she's really maybe on the fence about whether it was self-defense or not, because the way that she talks about Hannibal influencing her and stuff, she's clearly saying that I got influenced to kill someone, and I was made to believe it was self-defense, but actually he just made me kill someone and made me be a murderer. And if we're judging by what we've already seen, maybe she enjoyed it and that's the guilt eating her up. It was very like contradictory seeing her again, basically. Like very nice to see her, obviously, because it's a fan favorite, but to what at what cost, so to speak. I hope she gets her justice. I hope it is that it's considered self-defense, and even like under the circumstances that it was being given, that she was manipulated, surely that wouldn't be too much of a crime in a way, or like at least if she was going to be convicted with anything, it'd be a lighter sentence. Like they said she's given immunity, but you know, sometimes they do that as like an interrogation tactic, I assume.
Well, she should be fine because she's not being interrogated. She's being interviewed because of someone else.
Yeah.
So she's been given legal immunity, so she should be fine. But we also, I think, get the idea that before that, when the incident actually occurred, it would have been ruled as self-defense, which is why she was never in trouble. So she should be fine, basically.
Yes.
Interesting.
I do also find it interesting that she does it. She leans away from it being coercion, even though Will wanted her to say it was coercion. Clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they could like catch Hannibal, and kind of like you clearly want the Hannibal behind bars, right? Why aren't you saying more? Or guessing there's a bit of either she's still manipulated by Hannibal in some form, or she just doesn't want to obviously lie, because lying is purgatory.
I feel like,
is that the word?
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's a bit of like a trauma thing, a trauma response. She's still traumatized and still feels like, oh my god, he's going to hear me, and if
he's going to somehow.
What I'm saying, he's going to kill me.
From my personal interpretation, is kind of the opposite of that. Is that she's already identified herself as a victim before because she understands that she's a victim of trauma because she's referred to herself as traumatized before. So to me, the reason she's saying it's not coercion is because she's taking ownership of what she's done, even though she was a victim. I think Bedelia is both very aware that what Hannibal is doing is wrong and manipulated her, but she also wants to take responsibility for what she's done regardless. So I think she doesn't want to make herself seem too much like a victim, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Could you? Yeah, there was the guilt. You still did it, even if it was self-defense.
Yeah. There was there's something she says in that scene that I really like. She says when she's alone a little bit later with just Jack, she says, "Nothing makes us more vulnerable than loneliness, Agent Crawford." And Jack says, "Will's not alone." And Bedelia says, "No, he's not." And I really like that because it suggests she's not talking about Will, that she's actually talking about Hannibal, and Hannibal is the one who's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I like that because vulnerability can also make someone dangerous.
Yeah, valid.
I think she, more than anyone, recognises both the strengths and weaknesses in Hannibal, which I think is why she's in such a dangerous position. Because she doesn't see him the same way that Will does, but she understands him better than pretty much anyone else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, in this episode, when Will says things to Hannibal like, "We are just alike, you're as alone as I am, and we're both alone without each other," how much of that do you believe to be true? Is everything that Will says and does part of his plan, or is there an element of honesty to it?
I don't think Will is alone. Will maybe perceives himself to be alone, but he definitely isn't. I think man's a really good actor, bro. I think he is pulling out his Oscar-nominated performance for the part. I think he's just going ruthless to try and really crack into Hannibal's shell and get to him to try and lock him up and put him behind bars. Put the mask on, you little shit.
Yeah, I was going to go down the same route. I think he's being manipulative here. Maybe not intentionally, but it sounds manipulative. Because clearly you're not alone. Clearly you have people. Yeah, some of them people kind of look at you as a killer. Less so Jack. Maybe Jack does but Jack doesn't trust many people. He only trusts his own intuition the most. But yeah, and definitely not Alana. But he has people who trust him and who's on his side. There's Freddy, who I would never think.
Freddy does not trust Will.
Well, not trust him, but Freddy doesn't trust Will at all. But he's on his side, and
I don't know if I would agree with that.
Yeah.
At least I think they're on their side. At least they're going along with a plan, or some form of a plan. So I don't think he's alone per se. And then you also have Hannibal. I
think it's more that they're part of the same bigger plan rather than they are sort of on the same side. It's sort of like the troops have been rallied and they are two of many troops.
Yeah, the troops haven't been rallied. But that, how can you say I guess you're alone in the fact that you're probably the only one who thinks you're completely innocent.
Don't forget that it's still only not been that long since Will was let out of the BSHCI, so it's very easy to say, how could he be alone when he has all these people around him? Yeah. They weren't around him very recently. He started working with them now, but he was completely abandoned by all of them.
Oh, that's very true. And yeah, well, he might also be relating himself back to that moment of when he was in that mental asylum, where the only person that gave him a shred of kind of decency was, well, Hannibal, but mainly Bedelia, who gave him that push to keep on going. Because I don't think if anyone gave him, if Bedelia didn't give him that kind of "I believe you" statement, I don't think he would have survived that whole ordeal. I think that really helped him through that whole thing. So yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I somehow muted myself by accident. That's interesting. Anyway, I don't know. I feel like, to be fair to everyone else, like, not to say like I wasn't screaming at my screen, being like, "You dumb fucks! Like, why are you not believing Will?" But also, if you are sort of given a situation and you are made to believe that this person has done something and you have nothing else to go off of other than this is right, then of course they're going to all sort of be like, oh, we feel hurt and abandoned. They more felt betrayed, I feel like, and that's why they abandoned him. They just were like, you are not the person we were led to believe that you are. And then when he came out, everyone was just like telling their between their legs and being like, oh, sorry, we believed that you killed a load of people when you actually didn't. So I feel like he still does have those people, and they left mainly because they were like betrayed and hurt, rather than like they were like, okay, bye, peace out. So I wouldn't say he was alone. Like I said, I feel like Will perceives himself to be alone, and it would probably say that he stands alone in a bit of a way, but I don't think he is.
Isn't that the question though? It's not whether or not he is alone; it's whether or not he's telling the truth.
Yeah. He's. I think he probably believes that he's alone, but I don't think he believes anything in the context of alone like you and I. Like, I think all of it is just a load of wank for greater cause.
What about when he was talking to Peter about Hannibal, though? Do you think he was lying then when he was saying about how he wished it was easy to hate people? At what point does it stop being a lie? Or is it all lies? Was he lying to Peter?
If he's lying, I think it's just a performance, because is acting lying?
But why? What reason would he have to act to Peter?
To cover his tracks? I
don't know! I'm giving you food for thought!
That is part of his plan!
He had no reason to lie to Peter Benedone.
I guess he's maybe just trying to be careful with what he says in a way that you can sort of backtrack it, because when you're doing something like this and sort of playing a part that isn't really you, I feel like, you know, it's sort of best to keep your track clear in a way that you can always sort of be like, sort of back yourself up if someone refers something that was said in a situation or whatever, if that makes sense. Like if someone's like, oh, well, you said ABC, and you can be like, oh, well, that's because of blah blah blah, and you can back yourself up in a way that is believable. I think he's just doing a bit.
Okay. So on the flip side then, what about Hannibal? How much do you think he knows, or do you think he's truly in the dark?
Oh, fuck knows, mate. Fuck knows. Because I want to say that he knows everything, because just of what we've endured for the last 2 seasons. Like, I feel like we know that he knows everything, even when he tries to make you believe so hard that he doesn't know anything, or he is in a predicament where he's not going to come out of it. Like, anytime he's faced with his near death, this man is unfazed like it's an average fucking Tuesday. He does not give a pissing fuck where he is when he's got a knife to his neck. He doesn't actually care. He's so calm, and I just feel like he almost assumes he's going to get out of it more than he knows how to get out of it, or he's just not afraid of dying. It's just like, it's going to happen at some point. Look at who I am. Look at what I'm doing. Look at the business I'm running. But I really can't tell. And I think that's the whole point of the show. I think it's meant to be that even we are manipulated by Hannibal to make us believe that we know what he's thinking. And actually, he's like, no, you thought, bitch, you thought. And then actually it's the opposite thing. And we're like, oh, okay. Cool. So I'm going to say that he probably knows everything, but then might be blindsided by something, but then still knows everything else anyway. So I think it's going to be like a quadruple bluff.
I'd like to think that he's getting sloppy though, just because he's a bit lovey-dovey with Will. like
He's getting sloppy.
I feel like especially the whole conversation that Bedelia has with Jack. I feel like the TV show is intentionally leading us to believe that Hannibal has it all figured out. Possibly he does. He has a plan. But I think that there's going to be an element of we're going to see Hannibal going, oh, Will manipulated me again, and being really sad about it. So there's going to be some element. I feel like there's going to be some element of him being, I've been duped again by my boyfriend, my husband.
I hope so.
It's going to be sad.
That would be very satisfying.
It would be very satisfying.
Okay. I take these views on board.
We say like a load of yap, and Felix like, okay.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Because they're like, I ain't saying shit, mate.
Yeah,
I know everything. I know something you don't. And then we're just like, okay, cool. We said all of that, and you're just like, leaving us. Fine.
It's not time for my opinion yet.
Mimi.
Fantastic. When is it fucking ever?
Next episode.
Ooh.
You will finally get some of my thoughts. Not all of my thoughts, but a lot more than you've probably had before, I think.
Heck yeah.
Which will be interesting.
Ooh.
So, let's talk about food.
Food.
I can't pronounce this word, even hearing Hannibal saying it, but kolodets, as he says, is a Ukrainian dish whose outcome can never be predicted. Also known as the notorious fish jello or aspic. This is one of the few courses that Lawrence and Maz hated and had to repeatedly spit out between takes because it's disgusting.
I 100% get that. Why?
It's savoury jelly, just nah.
Yeah. Meh.
So the script called for anchoveta, which is Peruvian anchovies, to be made into a Mobius strip. However, they weren't in season. So Janice had to source an alternative. She considered wiring fake model anchovies together, but they were $47 each.
Oh my god.
Yes, ridiculous. So instead, they initially used the same preserved bait fish that they used for the trout fishing scene. Janice said that the bag had organic on it, so she wouldn't kill anyone who accidentally licks the jelly mold. However, she started getting suspicious they might not actually be edible. So she emailed the manufacturer, and someone came back to her being like, "Oh, they're fine." And then that person's boss came back saying, "Do not use them near food intended to be consumed."
Good.
And then she realized she couldn't use them anyway because she wanted to wire them together, which she couldn't do because Maz has to slice into the jelly.
Yeah.
Then marzipan was suggested, but that melts in gelatin, so you can't use marzipan.
Oh my god.
So then, she eventually decided to use Greek anchovies. There was only one fish dealer in the whole city that had them, and they were in terrible shape, but she managed to get 50 good ones. So she gutted them and pickled them, and so they wouldn't go bad, basically, so they're more preserved.
Yeah.
And in a blog she writes, "I'm not saying they'll taste good, I'm just saying they won't go bad."
Yeah.
She used chicken in the main part of the jelly so that although it wouldn't be nice, it would be edible.
Okay, good.
She then had to create a Mobius strip, and I'd just like to point out, you never see that she makes a fucking Mobius strip in the show. They went to all this effort of describing it in the script and shooting it, and her making it. You cannot tell it's a Mobius strip.
You cannot tell it was a Mobius strip.
So sad. So
sad.
She tried wiring them. They slipped off the wire. So then she tried gelling them together, and they flopped out. So in the end, she clipped the fish to rings made of foil stove liners using wire and disappearing thread, and then froze them, and then put them into the gelatin.
Oh my god! Wow.
Lava.
Like, at least
so much work.
I'll get Hannibal to mention it's a Mobius strip, because that's something
they
that
even cut
Hannibal
out
would.
The word Mobius strip is in the script, and they cut it out of the dialogue as well.
That's something that Hannibal would be proud of doing. So I made it into a Mobius strip because they're smart.
I would have someone and put someone's head in the jelly instead.
Honestly, they say eternal chase to give the idea of an interweaving circle that keeps going, but they got rid of the words Mobius strips. So it's
silly.
She also served zakuski, which is Slavic hors d'oeuvres, entrees, and snacks, like cold ones. And that's what the little pie decorated with fish heads and purple asparagus and sages, as well as the caviar and blinis that you see. Fun, random additional facts. The bottle of vodka on the table is like a fake brand with a made-up label on it. Which is fun. And that's the food!
Wow.
Nice little bit of Will lore as well. We got this episode is that we got to see Will preparing food, and we find out that Will makes his own dog food from scratch.
Cute.
It's like ground turkey and rosemary. Which is cool. He makes like fancy dog food as well.
Fancy dog food, that's cool.
It's really neat. So, this episode contains one of the most trippy scenes with Mason's drug trip. And also one of the most brutal, with Mason feeding his own face to Will's dogs. He did not, however, ultimately die. How did you feel about Mason's near demise?
Deserved,
but I think even Melissa said during the watch of the episode, if I feel sorry for him because even though that's deserved, that's a brutal thing to go through.
Yes, it was. Like, you know, he has been a very horrible person, so it's sort of like an eye for an eye. But then at the same time, at what cost is it really? I feel like it's maybe only justified on certain levels. This was actually like bonkers. Like you felt bad for him in the sense of what was going on. I think just because anyone that is sort of taken manipulated or like taken advantage of in any sort of vulnerable situation is really, really bad and really sad. And obviously he's like really happy in that moment, and he's like literally very heavily drugged, so you kind of have really conflicting emotions of just like, this is not nice, this is really not a nice thing that's happening at all. Kind of want to feel less bad because of the person it's happening to, but it's also just very fucking extreme because it goes from being really funny to immediately dark, and it's a lot to process, a lot to take in.
It's a really cool scene though, because I love the practical effect makeup, and forgetting that it was all practical effect and not CG.
To my knowledge, they used marzipan.
Did they?
Marzipan returns. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that looked really good.
Marzipan. What? When he ate his nose?
Probably for like the little strips, and if he actually put the thing in his mouth for his nose, probably that as well. Yeah.
That's pretty.
Dog's marzipan.
Well, I'm assuming they gave the dogs something else because I wouldn't have thought so. I think almonds probably aren't great for dogs.
Yeah, almonds are pretty great for dogs. Don't think so. No. But yeah, that was a really cool scene. Feel sorry for Mason. At the same time as good, because goddamn asshole did so much to his sister. Like what? I still don't feel as horrified with that scene as I did with poor his sister's scene. I forgot his name now.
Margot.
I know now. Margot. I know Margot's name. Oh my god. Brain just decided.
It's been 5 weeks.
Yeah. Like I just heard it just now.
I think there's another level of that though, of feeling bad, because number one, it's very real kind of it obviously like the situation specifics are very like unique, but I think the sort of motifs of it all are very real, and especially as women, it's very like scarily close to real life and truth. And it's obviously when you see someone that's very, you know, similar to you in a way, in terms of, you know, quite literally or emotionally, not just physically or whatever, like you kind of just feel that sort of pain at the 100%.
Yeah, and that's why I feel less sorry for Mason. But screw Mason, you got what you deserved. Because of what he did. I also forgot what else I was going to say about it. But yeah, we'll leave that. No, that's what I was going to say. Also, the trip that he had before. how do I get that same trip?
No.
Like,
No.
It looks fun.
It does not look fun. You do not want to be so off your head that you could cut your own face off.
Okay, yeah, maybe not around people who can persuade me to cut my own face off, but that trip looks fun.
And not feel it as well.
Oh, and not feel it. Oh my god, that would be good. Not feeling any pain for a day.
No, not feeling pain means you don't feel other things as well. The visuals are very cool.
Yeah, the visuals are cool.
Do you know what it reminded me of a little bit? You know when it's like all flickering in the back with like the sparks? It kind of reminds me of like really shitty AI type things that you see like on videos and whatever the fuck. I was just like, that looks like weird AI. They're so ahead of their time. The show is spoilers.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I agree. Like, on the one hand, yeah, very deserved. It's no less than what he deserves, but not even just for what he's done to his sister, but the fact that we know that he is a child molester as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And just a general sadist.
So,
but as you said, it's like I think part of it is the removal of autonomy is an incredibly unpleasant thing to witness, because you can imagine it happening to yourself. And I think for not everyone, but for a lot of people, the thought of the loss of self-control is like a very scary, visceral thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite unpleasant.
With like certain things, like we all joke like, oh, that'll be like whatever he's having, I'll have 20. Like with a lot of like drugs, I feel like the ones that everyone just says they have fun on, like there's still an element of like self-control and self-perception.
Yeah.
Something is so strong and crazy, and it went straight to him like immediately. Like that's a whole nother level of loss of self-control. Imagine someone says, "Eat your nose," then. Like, all right,
yeah,
eat it. Like that's bananas.
Yeah, it's intense.
That is intense.
There's something I noticed about this scene that kind of connected a few things together in my head. This is just like a weird little headcanon-y, rambly thing I want to mention. When Will goes to his house, it's Winston that's sitting on the porch waiting for him.
Yeah.
Whilst all the other dogs are inside. He's also the only dog that constantly tried to find Will when Will was in the BSHCI. Even though he's the newest dog as well, so in theory would have had like the less strong bond. However, Winston was also the dog that accompanied Will when he was sleepwalking, because of course Will imagines him as the nightmare stag. And because of those things together, I now really like the idea. So we've kind of gotten to the point now where the nightmare stag went from being this very unfathomable weird thing to now kind of being like a metaphysical representation of Will's goodness, compared to the stag man, who is like more like Hannibal's direct influence version of that. So I kind of like the idea that Winston has become the real world equivalent of that, in that he represents the good part of Will, because whether you think that Will is acting or going along with things, or part of him is relating to Hannibal, regardless of that, he is a lot closer to Hannibal in what's happening, because he's murdered because of him. He's engaged with everything that's going on with Mason and what's happening in his house because of Hannibal. And Winston is outside. And I like the idea that Winston kind of represents the idea of the part of Will that's still hanging on to not engaging with Hannibal.
Yeah. I like that idea, yeah. That's a cool idea.
I just like that.
Winston is the angel on Will's shoulder.
He is the best boy, the goodest boy.
He is the goodest boy.
So, you saw a glimpse of Jack and Hannibal fighting in the first episode, and this episode ends with Will suggesting that Hannibal revealed the Chesapeake Ripper to Jack. Do you have any guesses as to how this will all go down?
No.
I mean, apart from the first episode, maybe they get told. It also could be that first episode could also be in Will's head, so we don't know anything.
I will be fully honest with you. What you saw in that episode happens.
Damn it, give me hope.
Nothing like ultimately occurred in that. You just saw a bit of a fight.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like they set it up in a way that they want us to believe like he'll just go and turn himself in, but that's not going to be it at all, and everyone knows that.
No.
So that's why I'm sort of like, what the fuck are you going to do then, big boy?
I mean, that's fair. It's confusing. It's just gotten to that point now where like I've kind of run out of things to say as well, because we're now at this point where we don't know. It's getting to such a weird conclusion, and it is weird knowing that that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's like all trails of thought and just sort of assumptions and everything are all sort of like slowly dispersing, but it's almost like a lull, like everything's going out, but then it's all going to round up again. Like we have this impending like rounding of the story coming along, and we're just like, how the fuck is it happening if everything's just going like pissed? If that makes any sense. Like everything's just going out the window, out the door, out the fucking garage, and I don't know where everything is. I don't know where everything's going in, but because again, the way the Hannibal is, you just have yourself contradicting yourself 28 times.
Yeah. That's why I can't really. That's why it's gotten harder and harder to do your next predictions at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
it's just like, I don't know. There's just too many
variables. Someone's gonna blink. That's my prediction. Run out.
Yeah, heck yeah. There's too many variables, and too much that we don't know.
It's very valid. Well, before we get on to our endingy bits, let's talk about some gay stuff.
Gay stuff!
So, Hannibal says, Achilles lamenting the death of Patroclus. Whenever he is mentioned in the Iliad, Patroclus seems to be defined by his empathy. And Will says he became Achilles on the field of war. He died for him there wearing his armour. Hannibal says he did. Hiding and revealing identity is a constant theme throughout the Greek epics. And Will says, as are battle-tested friendships. And Hannibal says, Achilles wished all Greeks would die so that he and Patroclus could conquer Troy alone, took divine intervention to bring them down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, in the Iliad, Achilles,
I love the Iliad.
Yeah, Achilles is tender towards Patroclus, but arrogant towards others, which is a very good direct parallel to how Hannibal seems to favour and obsess over Will, despite his general contempt towards the human species. It's very clear that Hannibal sees them both in Achilles and Patroclus.
Yeah.
Now, apparently Homer doesn't explicitly depict them as lovers in the Iliad, but he doesn't not either. It's like, it doesn't go one way or the other in the Iliad, essentially. But many classical interpretations do depict them as lovers. There's many works that make it far more explicit. So I won't go into great detail on their relationship, but it's undeniably intimate, if not romantic in nature. So I'll give a quick little rundown of the general stories. So Achilles was clearly attached to Patroclus. Patroclus dons Achilles' armor, pretending to be him on the field of battle because Achilles doesn't want to fight. So Patroclus dresses up as him to scare away the Trojans, and although he's successful, he gets killed in the process.
Yeah.
And then Achilles falls into a deep grief. He touches Patroclus' dead body and keeps it in his tent with him. He smears himself in ash and goes into fasting, which is a very romantic way of grieving. And then he requests that when he dies, their bones be mixed together. Achilles only then goes on to battle in order to seek revenge, which he does do successfully.
Yeah.
So there's also that ending the episode as well. There's all sorts of weird little parallels there, not just romantically, but I mean, as Hannibal says, hiding, revealing identity. The idea of one dressing up as the other, the fact that Patroclus is defined by his empathy and dresses as Achilles on the battle. It's kind of this idea of Will is taking on Hannibal's form and melding and becoming more like him in order to get a job done. And we're seeing that happen. So that whole thing is just very, very cool.
Yes.
Very gay.
Very gay. I love
very explicitly gay. It's truly wonderful.
Whoop whoop.
So let's go on to our ending bits with favourite quotes.
Yay. Wait, so I start, right? like we usually do. So, right, my favorite quote. So I've got an honorable mention. Whose fat are you planning to measure today, Mason? I like that. Just made me laugh. Giggle. Especially after the whole Hannibal just being nonchalant about the knife in his face. It's like
He does
peak
not
Hannibal.
care.
Peak Hannibal. But then I just chose two quotes that made me laugh. My favorite quote is literally, "I'm full of myself." And that's pretty much my favorite quote. It's just a very silly quote at a very gruesome moment that broke the tension.
Very bad.
No, this is so good. It's just like,
Heck yeah.
they're like, I'm so full of myself. And it's just repeating, and when they're having a conversation, it's just quietly in the back, so full of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I also did like. Sorry, I'm adding another quote. I also did like the way Hannibal says, "Eat your nose, then," which was funny.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
I have a whole bunch.
Oh my god!
I have to mention the iconic line that has been embraced by the entire fandom, which is whenever feasible, one should always try to eat the rude. Which is how we get the slogan "Eat the Rude" from Hannibal.
Yes.
I also liked Bedelia saying Hannibal can get lost in self-congratulation at his own exquisite taste and cunning, whimsy, because it's very true and it's like insulting but true.
Yeah.
He can get lost in self-congratulation.
Yeah, because
are we all hearing what we're all hearing though? Also,
I also heard.
Where are you going with this?
I also heard. I also went there as well. So I can't.
Like to self-congratulate.
I can't say I can't deny that I also heard the same as you.
Good hunt today, guys. Let's have a quick wank and move on to the next.
Look, you might like clap when you masturbate, but not everyone else does. Pervert weirdos, or as Matt would say, you sick fucks. My other one. My other favourite quote, just because it's so spiteful and it's everything, is Will saying, "I bond with Abigail, you take her away. I bond with barely more than the idea of a child, you take it away. You saw to it that I alienated Alana, alienated Jack. You don't want me to have anything in my life that's not you." Because that last line is 100% correct.
100% correct. Yep. I went through those quotes as well going, I love those quotes, but are they my favourites?
You know I always like the Will and Hannibal lines.
Yeah.
So, favourite moment?
Favourite moment! Alright, okay. So, I've got an honourable mention again. Any scene with Bedelia, as you mentioned as well, with the whole, that whole scene where she was talking about Hannibal. I also liked what she was saying there at that point about loneliness as well, and things like that. But my favorite quote, my favorite scene is literally the scene where Will and Hanny discuss, as you mentioned just before we started this, Achilles and Patroclus, because I'm a massive Dark Academia fan, and Dark Academia is not is often mixed. Is often related to a love of Greek mythology and mythology as a whole. So yeah,
amazing.
I think my favourite moment has to be when fucking Half-Face eats his nose. It was just like it was kind of cute the way he said it. It was like, I'm hungry, and then Hannibal's like, eat your nose. Then he really thought about it. He was like, oh, my nose. Cuts it off. Pops it in like a fucking Malteser.
The actor does such a good job.
Just literally really good performance. It was just so funny, like so simple. The definition of less is more. It just went and did it, and it was just the way that it was just so nonchalant about it. Just like, yeah, all right, eat my nose. Cut it off, eat it. Yeah. That was great. That was my favourite moment.
Hell yeah. Mine is the same as Shaira's. It's the final scene.
yeah.
For me, it goes past the Achilles Patroclus bit as well, with Will saying this isn't sustainable, because it's silly, but it's very easy to like misconstrue that as their relationship isn't sustainable.
These nuts. That's what they're saying.
Uh-huh. It's very intimate. It's very cool. So give me your next episode predictions. And remember, it doesn't have to be accurate, it could just be something you want to happen.
I want everyone to survive. I want Bedelia to survive. I want Jack to survive. I want Will to survive. I want Hannibal to survive. You know what? I just rather I think play cat and mouse until eternity. Maybe more people will die, but it doesn't matter as long as they all survive. But then also we're gonna see Margot finally embrace the Hannibal cult. the cannibal cult. After Hannibal did her a favor with Mason.
My predictions is someone blinks. No, I'm kidding. That someone sustains their nuts. No. What do I want? I want the same as Shaira. I want... Fuck, it's so hard. I want Margot to get her fucking karma, her fucking payback from her bro. I want to know what she does to fuck him up in the hospital. I want her to twist his neck and be like, "Hi, bitch. My turn to look after you now."
I agree. I want Margot to get some comeuppance.
Yeah. I want to see her have a good quote unquote ending. Yeah.
Very valid.
Yes.
Well, my next episode predictions are that Hannibal will tell Jack he's the Chesapeake Ripper. And Jack, remembering all of the wonderful meals they had together, will forgive him. And they'll hug and make up, and nothing bad happens to anyone, and they all live happily ever after.
I hate you for this. I hate you for this.
I kind of believe you.
You should. You should believe me.
Yeah.
Exactly I want to believe you, but I hate you for this.
That's what I think will happen.
Okay.
Meanie.
So.
And we'll find out if that happens.
Are you ready for my sign-off?
Yes. Not really, because your sign-off always makes me go, what?
This one's very vague because I can't spoil anything, so it's just extremely vague.
Okay.
My sign-off is, it comes down to this. People have to know the truth. Who will survive that? Fate and Circumstance is an independent podcast brought to you by Felix Fanfaron Fern, Melisa Suzan, and Shaira Bambi. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at HannibalPod. We are fans of the show NBC's Hannibal and do not own the rights to any of the materials discussed, merely appreciators. The music used in this podcast is Tchaikovsky's Op. No. 40 Waltz by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening.